cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Whoa, 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 cha-cha on the ballroom beat. You got two left feet, get on the ballroom beat. They're dancing in the street, they're on the ballroom beat. We can tango, we can swing, we can do anything. Walk in through the door and waltz on the floor. You wanna feel the heat, get on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Foxtrot on the ballroom beat. Salsa on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat.
Welcome to On the Ballroom Beat. I'm your host, Lania Berger, and tonight we're going to be looking at a century of dancing on the silver screen. Isn't that fun to see? It is so cool to see how dance has changed, the styles have changed, but I'll tell you what remains throughout is that it is just feel-good fun to be dancing. And the silver screen has been hugely impactful on the popularity of dancing and different dance styles that we utilize socially. So we are going to go through in 3 parts. Today is part 1. We're going to take you through a century of the silver screen and the dances that have taken place on them. And to start off with, I'm going to rewind you all the way back to the beginning of cinema itself. We're going to go to 1897 to take a look at the Danse Serpentine. So let's take a look at Louis Fuller's Danse Serpentine, which is going to be very interesting to see because, like I said, it's back at the beginning of film itself. Now, this is a style that was originated for vaudeville and also burlesque and the circus. It became popular during the 1890s throughout the US and Europe and was later used in stage shows and early film. Now, as I said, this is originally created by Louis Fuller, who said that she accidentally discovered this style of dance while she was creating a costume for a show that she was in called Quack MD. She noticed that the way the lighting hit the gauzy material was very exciting to the audience, and after their response, she created this skirt dancing, and is therefore considered a pioneer of modern dance and also of theatrical lighting. Now, is this Louis Fuller that we're watching right now? I'm not positive. Some say that it's Papinta, some say that it's Louis Fuller. Louis Fuller has been quoted as saying that she would not be recorded, and so that's why there's question as to whether this is really her or not. Papinta, they say, was about 7 inches taller and slimmer, but in all that big material and costuming, it's hard to really tell who that is that we're looking at. But again, it is Louis Fuller who is credited with the origination of that Serpentine dance, and who was created the, the batons that they held to make the material move in such a whimsical and beautiful way. As I said, the fact that it got onto film really speaks highly of the dance and helped in its popularity on the vaudeville scene and the burlesque scene and also in the circus arts. Now that was just a short clip, but remember it's the beginning of cinematography. There's not a whole lot that's being done yet. As we jog forward to 1903, we're going to see a full-length feature film, the first Western movie, the first action movie, The Great Train Robbery, which runs an entire 10 minutes, but still at the time it's revolutionary and very exciting. Now, The Great Train Robbery, like I said, is a film from 1903. It's considered a milestone in film history, as it was, in fact, the first action film, the first Western film ever created. Now, the writer, producer, and director is Edwin S. Porter, who was a former cameraman over at Edison Studios. In that film, we have a whole minute that's dedicated to the dancing. And here it is. Now, this is, of course, the comic relief for the movie, which is otherwise rather serious with the great train robber and his antics. Now, as we see, there's a gentleman who's going to come in who is an Eastern stranger. He'll be forced to dance while the locals fire at his feet. And there we go with the tap dancing that happens as only it can when you have people shooting at your feet. Now, again, this movie came out all the way back in 1903, one of the very, very first films, and certainly the longest of its time at 10 minutes. Now, film takes a nice leap forward as we move to our next clip that we're going to take a look at, which is in 1915. This film is called The Whirl of Life, and it is very special, especially if you are a ballroom dancer. These are folks dancing the Castle Walk, and of course the Castle Walk is named after the very famous Vernon and Irene Castle. Now, in this scene, we see a lot of different social dancers dancing. In the next one, we'll actually get to see the castles themselves. But let's talk about Vernon and Irene Castle for a moment, because they were so instrumental in reviving the popularity of modern dancing and removing the stigma of vulgarity from close dancing. They were trenders in dance styles, of course, but also in fashion and in hairstyles. In fact, that is why I am donning this hairstyle today in observance of the lovely and in honor of the lovely Irene Castle, who is credited with the popularity of the bob of the 1920s. Now, Vernon and Irene Castle were at the forefront of ballroom dancing of this time. Now, let's remember, this is 1915. If you know your Arthur Murray history well, you'll know that he taught his first lesson in 1912. So, of course, there's got to be some correlation here, and there is. Vernon and Irene Castle were famous for being in the movies, famous for being on stage, and famous teachers of ballroom dance. Extremely sought-after teachers. In fact, there's a story that says that Vernon once was not so interested in working with a particular student, and so he decided to quote them $1,000 a lesson, and they took him up on it. That's how sought after Vernon and Irene Castle were as instructors. In fact, they had their own dance studio, which was just absolutely revolutionary for the time. These things didn't happen with social dancing and ballroom dancing. Traditional dances, yes, but social dancing, not so much. Arthur Murray was a pupil of Vernon and Irene Castle. In fact, he was such a great student, stood out to them so much, that they had him become a teacher at their studio. And so if you are indeed a part of the Arthur Murray dance family, you are part of a legacy that goes back so very, very far, even beyond Arthur Murray himself, to Vernon and Irene Castle, two of the most famous pioneers of ballroom dancing. Now, in this next scene, we're going to get to take a look at Vernon and Irene dancing together. What a treat to see. Here they are dancing in the 1915 film Whirl of Life. Now, Vernon and Irene are also credited with refining and popularizing the foxtrot, which we'll see them dancing here. Their ease of movement is just so wonderful. Their connection as a partnership, poise and grace and elegance. They also were instrumental in promoting different types of music, ragtime music, jazz rhythms, African American music. These were all popularized by Vernon and Irene Castle in their social dancing. Now, as I said, Vernon and Irene Castle did eventually open up a dance studio where Arthur Murray taught at. But let's remember that before that, it's very, very rare to find a place to learn how to social dance. And so in order to be a great dancer, you had to really sort of be in the know or be a socialite who was attending the parties where this type of dancing was done. When we return after the break, we're going to learn a little bit about how people did indeed learn how to dance before the dance studios as we talk about dance taxis. We're going to take a look at the passionate tango, and of course, how can we not acknowledge the wonderful Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. All of that and more after the break.
Everyone's story is different, so why be limited to just one or two options? With Norcom's Norflex Home Loan, you're given the flexibility to tell your story. Pick your terms from 8 to 30 years, all while maintaining a low, fixed mortgage rate. You can pay off your loan more quickly or choose a term based on your budget and timeline. Whatever you do with the Norflex Home Loan, make it part of your financial plan. Norflex, short-term, long-term, your terms. Apply online at norcommortgage.com.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonatti created, perfected, and patented the Bonatti spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonatti invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonatti spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
Beltran Dental Surgery is dedicated to providing the highest quality dental surgery.
Teeth in a Day allows a patient to walk in with their old teeth, sleep under IV sedation, and walk out with a brand new smile. Unlike dentures, Teeth in a Day allows you to eat what you want and still feel like you have your own teeth.
From wisdom teeth removal to implants or creating a whole new smile, call now or visit our website to learn more about our procedures. Get a brand new smile today.
that loves going to the dentist because it's made for you and me.
My name is Dr. Becerra from New Tampa Pediatric Dental, providing a comfortable atmosphere in early dental care. Gives kids a great start for healthy teeth and gums for life.
My middle son did not like to come to the dentist, but now he loves to come to the Beehive.
You don't have to be afraid to go to the dentist. Believe me, Dr. B and his worker bees are the best. Call New Tampa Pediatric Dental today.
Welcome back to On the Ballroom Beat. Before the break, we were looking at Irene and Vernon Castle dancing the foxtrot in Whirl of Life, the 1915 film. We're now going to move to another film of 1921 called The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Now, to talk about this film, we first have to describe a little bit the star of it, Rudolph Valentino. Rudolph Valentino came to America from Italy in 1913. When he first arrived in New York, he was pretty much penniless and needed to find a way to make his way in his new world. And so he took on some different odd jobs, one of which was a dance taxi. Now, as we said before the break, dance studios for social dancing really didn't exist at this time. Arthur Murray had just started teaching people to dance, but he didn't have studios established. The castles started to have a studio established, but it wasn't accessible to the masses, really pretty much just the elite. And so to find people who were good social dancers and good leaders was pretty challenging. So when a European man came over who knew how to dance, he was a hot commodity to say the least. Even more exciting than we would have today, because we have much better social dancers today, or much more widespread social dancers today, I should say. So when Rudolph Valentino took his position as a dance taxi, he found that he flourished at it and did a very, very nice job making a decent living and rubbing shoulders with the socialites of New York City. In fact, I think he got a little bit too good at his job, because there was one social affair that sort of turned into a social scandal and encouraged Valentino to move all the way across the country and head over to LA, where he started to do some different work for the silver screen. Now, the most famous work is, of course, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, where we can see Rudolph Valentino dancing the tango. Now, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse didn't just make Rudolph Valentino a movie star, but a heartthrob, a pop icon of his day. He was called the Latin lover. And every woman wanted to be in his arms dancing. The woman who's so lucky right there is Beatriz Dominguez. And they're, of course, dancing to the famous tango, La Comparsita. And it's really fun and interesting to see these steps that have stood the test of time. You can see the use of corte over and over again. Now, Rudolph Valentino not only brought himself to fame, but also brought the tango to fame. It had not really been seen in America at this point. Of course, it was a famous and very popular dance in Argentina. It did make its way to the World's Fair in Paris, which is presumably how Valentino learned it. And then he brought it over here. And after this movie, it certainly became a very, very popular social dance that everybody wanted to be dancing. Arthur Murray certainly wasn't just a great dancer, but a great businessman, because to recognize the new desire of society to want to be able to social dance like they're seeing in these movies was certainly very bright of him. And very exciting for all of us who get to be a part of his legacy. Bravo to Rudolph and Beatrice. What a lovely tango, what a great start to the tango over here in America. Thank you so much to Rudolph Valentino for making it popular in The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. As we move forward into the 30s, who can we talk about but, of course, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, one of the most famous dance duos of the century. Now, interestingly enough, Fred Astaire wasn't really wanting to have a partnership, per se, with Ginger Rogers. They did very well together in their first film, and when RKO Productions wanted to continue to put Fred with him, he objected slightly. He had spent his entire childhood growing up on the vaudeville stage, doing a brother-sister act with his sister Adele. Now, Adele was quite a bit taller than Fred, and that's why he would often wear a top hat to make him appear taller than he actually was. After spending all that time in a single partnership, after he and Adele split and he went out on his own, he wasn't really interested in getting back into another partnership, and he made that clear. However, I think that the public wouldn't have it, because the chemistry and connection between Fred and Ginger was intoxicating and exciting, and all the people wanted was more and more of it. And so the RKO Studios continued to put the pair together, creating one of the partnerships that we know and love today. Now, Fred Astaire is obviously famous for his wonderful dancing and choreography, but he's also rather innovative in film technique. In fact, they gave him a lot of creative liberty in the filming of his different dance numbers, and he had a couple different things that he created that were important innovations to early films that included musical numbers. The first thing is that Fred said that either he dances or the camera dances, but not both. And what he meant by this is that he wanted to dance before a stationary camera. He wanted his entire body to be seen, and he wanted nice long shots, uninterrupted shots, so that things were done in one full take and it was more authentic to the viewer. He also stated that he wanted the musical numbers to make sense in the plot. He didn't want them just thrown in for the sake of a big musical extravaganza. And if we think about some of the musical films that were done by Busby Berkeley, we can see where Fred Astaire is getting some of this influence from. He didn't want it to feel like a Busby Berkeley film. He wanted it to feel different and a little bit more authentic. He was also quite a perfectionist. In fact, they say that he was relentless on his insistence of rehearsals and retakes. And this next clip that we're going to take a look at with him and Ginger Rogers dancing together in Swing Time was, I think it was either take 43 or 47, somewhere up there. And they say that at the end of this number, poor Ginger had her feet bleeding. So not only was she doing everything Fred did backwards and in heels, but at the end of this number, with aching feet. Let's take a look at Fred and Ginger in Swing Time. I've also heard it said that Fred Astaire's wife would insist on being on the set while they were rehearsing and shooting their different dance numbers. And so Ginger Rogers was often dancing with the little click, click, click of his wife's knitting in the background, because she would sit and patiently knit something while Fred and Ginger did their dancing. Now, Ginger Rogers is considered to have been Fred Astaire's finest partner because of her ability to combine her wonderful dancing skills, her natural beauty, and her exceptional abilities as a dramatic actress. Fred Astaire was not traditionally handsome. In fact, in some of his earlier auditions, they mentioned that he's slightly balding and just okay at singing and dancing, ironically. But they say that Ginger's wonderful acting just made him, somebody that any girl would just melt to be in his arms. And she really does have such amazing grace and poise. And the other thing that I think makes her so exceptional is that for Ginger, the acting doesn't stop when the dancing begins. She's still in character, always in character. And also has some of the most exquisite costumes I believe I've ever seen. Ginger Rogers also started on vaudeville, much like Fred. It's said that she entered a Charleston dance contest and won it, and ended up touring on vaudeville for 6 months. Although Fred Astaire is credited with most of the choreography, he did collaborate with Hermes Pan, and they both have acknowledged that Ginger Rogers did have input as well. and they've testified to her consummate professionalism, even during periods of intense strain. In fact, Fred Astaire once remarked that all the girls he danced with thought they couldn't do it, and so they would cry. Of course they could do it, but they would cry, except for Ginger. He says, no, Ginger never cried. Aren't they exquisite? It is such a treat to watch Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers dance together. And Swing Time is certainly a fantastic film to see that in. We're going to take a look at one more film clip from 1935 in just a moment here. But I want to make sure to invite you to join us on the Ballroom Beat for our next 2 episodes as we continue a century of dancing on the silver screen. We still have quite a bit of time left to go and many, many, many wonderful dance memories to see on the silver screen. I also want to invite you to try out dancing at your local Arthur Murray Dance Studio. Give them a call to set up your first lesson, which is complimentary, and give ballroom dancing a try yourself. It is such a wonderful thing to be a part of and such an exciting legacy to join. And so now, taking us to the end of the show, let's invite back to our silver screen Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. This is them dancing in the 1935 movie Top Hat, and they're going to show us what it's like to dance cheek to cheek. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time on the Ballroom Beat.
Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. You got 2 left feet Get on the ballroom beat. They're dancing in the street. They're on the ballroom beat. We can tango, we can swing, we can do anything. Walking through the door and waltz on the floor. You wanna feel the heat? Get on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom beat. Foxtrot on the ballroom beat. Salsa on the ballroom beat. Cha-cha on the ballroom